Now, the American Supreme Court has ruled against American President Donald Trump's global tariffs, marking a major setback for executive power in trade policy. The top court has said that the tariffs were enacted under a federal law that was meant for national emergencies. The White House has offered no immediate response to the Supreme Court ruling. Trump, in fact, labelled it a complete disgrace moments after learning of the decision during a meeting with the governors. Now, more than $175 billion in U.S. tariff collections are at risk of having to be refunded. The importers are expected to scramble for the refunds from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency on import duties paid over the past year. And these tariffs that were enacted under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act have prompted extensive litigation and debate over whether a president can levy broad import duties without explicit congressional authorization. Now, Trump has in fact touted the revenue generated by all of his tariffs, estimated by the Congressional Budget Office at about $300 billion annually over the next decade. But the estimates show that a substantial amount may need to be refunded if the court rules against Trump. Now, after the Supreme Court ruling, refunds of $175 billion would exceed the combined fiscal 2025 outlay from the Department of Transportation at $127.6 billion and the Department of Justice at $44.9 billion. Now, these tariffs imposed by the American president have affected multiple nations, including India, which after a trade deal is paying 18% tariffs. Indonesia has got tariff rate of 19%, Pakistan at 19%, Bangladesh again at 19%. China has a tariff rate of 37%, Vietnam has 20%, the EU has 15%, and Brazil has 50%. Now, importers from these nations have paid duties that could now return to them through claims processes. Legal teams are preparing for the next steps as the government is assessing compliance. Markets are monitoring the effects on trade flows and federal budgets ahead. But the question now is, what are Donald Trump's options? He can still wield tariff authority through Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, and the Act targets national security threats, and Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974 that is aimed at unfair trade practices. And we earlier spoke with Mr. Mark Brolin, who's a geoeconomic and geopolitical strategist and author. Listen to what he had to say.
Well, I think it's both predictable and less predictable. Betting markets have been anticipating this, but still, given that it goes across what Trump wants, it's a surprise in that sense. So White House will be fuming, but I still think in the big scheme of things, this will be a great positive. It will be positive for the free trade across the world, of course, but this also normalizes the relationship between the White House and Congress. So going back to how it usually is the case, that the White House suggests and then the Congress decides. And I think lots of the Republicans, they will have to pretend they're upset, but I think many Congress Republicans will be secretly happy about this too, because it makes them more powerful. And it also makes perhaps the Republican Party come across as more serious and responsible going forward. Because I think many in the public, even within the MAGA movement, have not really liked all these executive orders, including the tariff executive orders. Well, there will be lots of huffing and puffing, of course, and the Trump administration, they will hit back at this and do all sorts of things the legal way, but probably not. They will probably not get so. They will try to save face that way. I'm not sure things will change from this. This is probably going to stand, and then there will be lots of discussions about the rebates if the money has to be paid back. So that will be a big story for a long time as well. But besides that, this certainly diminishes Team Trump in a way. I think we can see even before the Greenland episode, that was sort of a turning point. His power has now peaked. He did have more power than presidents usually had because of his style in a way. So he's not a lame duck yet. He might be after the November election, but his peak power is behind him. And from now on, he will not be taken as seriously. People already are not as afraid of him, even within his own party, as they have been in the past. So this is just like the Greenland setback for him. This is a setback as well.